Hello and welcome back to the Habits and Healthspan and Amway podcast. We're excited once again to learn about all things Healthspan with you. My name is Alyssa. I'm here as always with John, my co-host. Hi, John.
Hi, Alyssa. How's it going?
Hey, doing well.
I think you've detected that I'm a little off right now.
Uh-oh.
My mind is somewhere else.
This is not a good place to start, John.
Well, my mind is where it usually is, thinking about what I had for breakfast this morning and what I plan on having for breakfast tomorrow.
Already tomorrow, really?
It's never too soon to plan for your future, Alyssa. If I could have my way, I'd be having a great big plate of chocolate chip pancakes with syrup. Keep the coffee coming. It would be so delicious.
Really?
I love this stuff.
Okay, it's really hard to debate how delicious that is. But is that something you would legit eat every day?
Especially after hosting a couple of these episodes. I know that the answer in my heart is yes, but the answer I should be living is no.
Okay.
It's for special occasions, and I love it when it happens. What about you? Do you have a favorite breakfast food?
I love all breakfast foods. I could spend an entire podcast talking about the different breakfast foods I love to eat. I do love the things that you mentioned, although, right, I can't have those as frequently. I love eggs in the morning. I love oatmeal with berries, maybe a little bit of maple syrup on there also. I never say this word right. It's been a lifelong struggle, but I love bagels.
Close.
Bagels, I just said it again, with peanut butter or avocado, some smoked salmon. I love potatoes for breakfast. I can do the sausage and the bacon. All things breakfast, I'm a fan.
Incredible. Well, that plays right into what we're talking about too today.
Go figure.
Not just breakfast, but morning nutrition.
Okay.
And the experts that we have with us to guide us through all things morning nutrition, calling in from California, we have Dr. Gigi Kwok-Hinsley. She's a registered dietitian nutritionist and a nutrition clinical research investigator at Amway. Gigi, welcome.
Hi, John. Hi, Alyssa. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks so much for being here.
Also here today, we have Dr. Amit Chandra. He's a fellow of botanical strategy, innovation, and phytochemistry at Amway. Welcome, Amit.
Thank you, Alyssa. Very happy to be here. Hello, John. Hi, Gigi. Nice to be here with you too.
Now, Gigi, is there anything else that our listeners should know about your background?
Yeah, so I have been at Amway for several years now. Before that, I actually got my doctorate in public health at Loma Linda University, one of the blue zones that we have in the globe. In addition, I am a registered dietitian, so food is something I really enjoy talking about, not only how we consume it, but what should we consume. So it's really fun to be part of this conversation.
Incredible. And blue zones, for people that aren't familiar with the term, are
people that are more likely to live up to 100, if not beyond 100 in those particular regions. So Loma Linda is one of them in California.
And Amit, anything you'd like to share about your background for our listeners?
Well, I am living the health span, as we say, and I'm entering into that final zone of health span. I'm happy to share that. I have almost 40 years of experience in plant chemistry and phytonutrients. And basically, my area of expertise, I call it is PSNE. P stands for purity, S stands for safety, E stands for efficacy. So people like me, what we do, we look into the ingredients that go inside or behind our products that provide you efficacy that we talk about.
Well, why don't we get started and dive right into it? Gigi, what is morning nutrition? Why is it important? How does it impact our health span?
So you notice that we don't call it what is breakfast, we call it morning nutrition, right? Morning nutrition is beyond just what we have in the first meal of the day. It's also what the nutrients that make up that meal or the foods that we consume. And sometimes they can be in food form, like your favorite that you mentioned, but it could also be the nutrients that we supplement with to start our day. So that could be how we talk about morning nutrition in this particular episode.
That's very interesting. So it's not just what you're eating, but there seems to be a timeliness to the supplements that you also may be taking in the morning.
Correct.
Let me also emphasize on what Gigi said, the timeliness part. And I think we'll be talking about it a little bit more. But I wanted to pick on the word health span. And I don't know how much we know about it, but the way I understand health span, it is different than the term lifespan. You have heard, like, count your life in your years. Don't count your years in your life. So counting life in your years is called health span. That is very simple, living healthy, happy, and well till the time you live. And to do that, nutrition has a big role to play.
I want to follow up a little bit on this nutrition. Now, Gigi, you shared that there's more to it than just breakfast, but that's the first thing that comes to mind when we think of morning nutrition, right? So we often hear breakfast, the most important meal of the day. Is there any truth to that?
I would say yes. So like we say, you wake up in the morning, you put your best foot forward to succeed in that day. And we live a day to day, right? So morning nutrition is nothing different than that. We kick off our day with the best meal of the day. That should be the breakfast. And the choice, what goes into that breakfast, will be like putting our best foot forward.
I absolutely agree with that. And I think there's a couple of ways to understand that, right? There's the scientific way of understanding why morning nutrition is important, but also from the behavior standpoint of why morning nutrition is important. From the standpoint of science, you often find people that probably wake up at a certain time and they've probably slept, hopefully, a good chunk of time, maybe 7 to 9 hours. And so it's been a pretty long time. It's probably the longest period that we probably don't eat anything or have anything in our system. So it's the first day that we break our fast, right? You're really starting your engine right. And so if you're having the appropriate nutrients that you're looking for in proportions that are ideal, you're really starting your day right. But there's also the behavior aspect. People who tend to start their day off with healthy behaviors, whether it's morning nutrition, exercising, or other aspects of it, they're more likely to establish other healthy behaviors. So there's a couple of aspects in terms of what morning nutrition can benefit us in different ways. And those are just a couple of things to consider while you consider whether you need to have breakfast in the morning.
This is good information. How does eating first thing in the morning affect our body's ability to manage our energy over time then?
So in terms of the physiological standpoint, you really want to understand how it affects your blood glucose, right? Again, it is probably the first time where you break your fast after a long period. And so chances of you having your blood glucose at a lower point, you want to make sure that you are refueling with appropriate carbohydrates. It's not to say that proteins and fats can't be part of the conversation, but you need to have some appropriate amount of carbohydrates to make sure that you're fueling your cells with the glucose that it needs to get you going for the day.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Amit, anything you'd like to add?
First, I would like to comment on your introduction. Pancakes and maple syrup.
I
think you might have to.
I knew this was coming.
You might have to think twice about it after we finish talking today.
No.
But,
okay. Let's hear it.
Carbohydrates are necessary because we need that energy and we are deprived of that as soon as we wake up, right? We are fasting all night long. Now, when we say protein, it should not be your steak. It is basically lean protein, especially from plants if you have a choice. Then you also need fibers, and those fibers should be coming from fruits, vegetables, and grains. Omega-3s is another thing to add to your supplementation in the morning if you can, because it is a great supplement to have and our body doesn't make it. I will introduce you to two terms, MUFA and PUFA.
Oh.
Okay. So MUFA is called monounsaturated fatty acid and PUFA is called polyunsaturated fatty acid. These are basically coming from seeds and nuts. What I mean to say is include seed and nuts also in your breakfast if possible.
This is such good news for me because I really love having seeds and nuts in my oatmeal, but for some reason in the morning I have felt like, oh, is this okay to do? I feel a little bit guilty because I just think of the fat content. But it sounds like seeds and nuts in my oatmeal is not a bad thing.
I think you are right there because we generally think when we use the word fat, it is a negative thing. No, it is not. There are good fats and there are bad fats. What you get out of seeds and nuts are the good fats. Omega-3 are the good fats. Our body needs these good fats. And to start right in the morning with consuming those good fats is good for us.
So when we hear Amit talk about MUFAs and PUFAs or healthy fats as a general term, it's important to recognize that fats have a multiple benefit, including slowing down your digestion, right? It takes a little bit longer to digest fats. And so naturally, it slows down all of your digestion process in a good way, where it then improves satiety or the feeling of fullness that you have. Protein has similar benefits, and so does fiber. And so those are important components to have as part of your morning nutrition.
We've been talking a lot about breakfast, but you mentioned that there's more to morning nutrition than just breakfast. There's also some behaviors that we can implement. Can you sort of talk to the optimum morning routine?
So I would recognize that there is no one answer to this. It's really what works for you, what works for your lifestyle and the people around you that you live with. And so it's important to recognize that first and foremost, and also what you need as a person. And so I do want to maybe talk about some of the components that might be part of your routine that you want to consider in addition to nutrition. I personally really like movement. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be long. And so whether it's stretching or mobility work, going out for a walk, going out for a run, or some other class that you like to take, movement is really good to kind of get your muscle flow and get your blood going too, and to really start your day in a good mental health state. Hydration is one. I think there's been some discussion of drinking water upon waking. Again, it goes back to having a long period of time where you haven't been drinking or eating anything. And so rehydrating your body with water is a really good way to get started. And it's simply putting a glass of water right next to your nightstand so that's ready to go when you're ready to go. And you don't have to go fumbling it for a glass or whatever when you wake up. And then, of course, there's mindfulness. And I think sometimes I personally really like this. I like to wake up a little bit earlier before everybody else to have that calm and quiet moment. And you can do a lot of different things during that time, right? You can journal, you can meditate, you can have some intention set for the day of what do I want this day to look like, but setting a positive mindset for yourself before you have all the chaos ensue. It might be a good way to start your day with some of those components, but it doesn't have to be every day and it doesn't have to be all of them. It just has to be the components that work for you.
I love hearing that because I hear a lot of freedom in choosing how to make your morning work for you. Can you speak to how important is it to have a routine or habits to follow in the morning?
So it's important to recognize that humans are creatures of habits. The more we implement something, the better we are at just automating some of those preferences. And so there are things that we do in the morning that it's probably easier to automate because whether it's in the winter and we're cold and we don't want to get out of our bed, or we're just having a really late night and we don't want to get up super early. But when you have established behaviors, you're more likely to just respond to the things that you've done, right? So whether you've established a benefit of having breakfast, then working out, then getting your work started for the day, whether you've had a long day, whether you've had a early morning, those are things that you almost feel like you're missing something if you don't do it. And so having those behaviors established, having those patterns established is really important because the moment you don't have them, you feel a little lost. And so you just automatically go back to what you're comfortable with. It does take time to establish those behaviors. So really be patient with yourself, right? When there's a morning where you're like, oh, I just don't want to wake up and do this workout, give yourself that grace. Try it again later that day, or try and just kind of have some encouraging words for yourself. It might be a good way to reestablish that behavior in a moment of weakness.
It's very right, Gigi. And I just want to again say a little bit more on the word routine. It is very important. Routine or regimen, right? Or habit. They are very similar to each other. Having a routine is so important for us because when we start our day, if we don't have a plan for the day, then we can stumble or kind of get confused in what we want to achieve. I think by having a routine, it is directly proportional to our growth and achievement. And I'm taking, again, I believe in one day at a time. So it helps you give space for the purpose, what is ahead of you. It gives you different slots in the day that, okay, if I do this now, I can do that later, right? So it just gives you that sense of planning between the chaos that life has to offer you on a daily basis. And this is also important for your for your achievement and self-growth, right? One big thing that routine helps you also is time management. We just get out of bed and like we are talking, we should have morning nutrition as part of our routine, right? Time management is equally important. If we don't manage time to what we want to do the whole day, we cannot do what we are talking here. We need to have a space for everything. And time management also gives us one big thing. It teaches us work-life balance. Because we all need to work and we all need to enjoy life because we are getting into that health span. We need time for that.
Wow. So it's not just morning nutrition, is so many different factors. Everything's going to roll over and just get better when we start the day well.
So, Gigi, you say that there's no one routine that works for all of us, but what about the things that we're eating? Is there a right formula? Is there a right mix that we should be looking at when it comes to the foods that we're eating?
So it's important to understand that there is right components that you want to include. It's okay to assume that you don't have all the components in every single one. At the end of the day, humans are very dynamic individuals, and we want to consider the situations that we're in. And so there are times you might need more of one versus the other, and vice versa. However, when we think about morning nutrition, there's a couple of macronutrients you want to think about, as well as the vitamins and minerals you also want to include. But macronutrients are nutrients that we need a lot of. So think about carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. Those are the common ones that we think about. We talked about how we want to prioritize healthy fats and lean proteins. And then, of course, there is carbohydrates, where you want to have carbohydrates because they are the fuel source for a lot of different things, especially how your brain functions. But fiber is part of that carbohydrate conversation. And so those are things that we want to consider. When we think about vitamins and minerals, as well as phytonutrients that we often talk about here at Amway, is to really think about the vitamin mineral composition. Again, you're not going to hit all of them, right? But you do want to have some amount in every single meal that you have, starting with your breakfast and starting with your morning nutrition. And so whether they come from your fruits and vegetables, whether they come from other foods that are part of the meal, those are things that I would consider as part of your essentials in your morning nutrition components.
You know, one thing I've been learning throughout all these episodes is how everything's connected, and things we've learned in previous episodes keep popping up. And one of those things, you know what I'm talking about? I'm thinking of our protein episode.
I know where
number
you're going.
3. Yep.
Uh-huh.
So, Amit, could you tell us maybe a little bit about how protein impacts our morning, then impacts the rest of the day?
We all know why we take protein. The general concept is protein helps us to build muscle, keep muscle, right? But protein has a very big role in our breakfast routine for morning nutrition. As we know, like Gigi also said, we have to have carbs in the morning because now we are waking up or fasting and we need energy, right? That is so true. We need to get up and move, right? We need some energy. So having carbs as part of our breakfast is super important. But let us not forget that our liver also stores sugar in form of glycogen. Now, liver also knows that we are waking up or we need energy. So what it does when we wake up or when we break a fast, it does its job. It does something called glycogenolysis. Glycogenolysis is nothing but breaking down the glycogen into glucose. And it starts dumping that in our bloodstream too. So now we are getting glucose from the carbs we are eating, and we are also getting glucose from what liver has to do by breaking down glycogen. So all of a sudden, if we are not careful, our glucose levels go up and then suddenly fall. To stop that, if we take protein along with this, protein now also has a role to play and get into our blood. It will plateau that fall and sudden fall, which is good for our body. While talking about this, that protein helps to manage good, healthy sugar levels in the blood. That's how. It also gives us a feeling of fullness. That is satiety. So we got protein, we got carbs, okay? We are going ahead with our day. We are not feeling hungry very soon. Because as soon as we feel hungry, we have a tendency to pick up anything in front of us and eat it. Right? This will help to curb that habit. So that is also another benefit of adding protein. And why protein? We talked about everything. In the end, like we said, like Gigi said, there is no specific formula that X% protein, Y% carbs, and Z% fats, right? It is all about the balance. And balance depends from person to person. In the end, our healthy breakfast should be a mix of lean protein, healthy carbs, nutrition provided by supplementation of omega-3s, and healthy fats. If we can manage that great combination and balance it, we are looking at a great day ahead.
As always, this is really great information. Now, something that I've sort of had in the back of my mind as we've been talking this whole time is the question of breakfast and maintaining a healthy weight. Can either of you speak to how those two things are related, maintaining healthy weight and eating breakfast? Because sometimes I think, well, if I don't eat breakfast, I'm eating less. But it sounds like so far from what we're talking about, it's not always the best move.
So it's important to recognize that there's been a lot of studies done on the importance of weight and breakfast or morning nutrition in this discussion. And so you can find a lot of literature on it. And there's been some discussions on what's better with or without. And I think the story that we've been hearing is if I skip it, I just lose weight. And yes, for the short period of time that you do, you might lose a few pounds here or there, maybe one or two, but you're going to gain it all back. So it's clearly not a sustainable way of losing weight. And so it depends also on a couple of things, right? I think when we consume breakfast as your first step to a healthier lifestyle, I think it's important to feel good about that choice, but also make sure to give it time to have that benefit really becoming part of your life. And so there's a couple of studies. One was done in 2019 and one was 2022, looking at several studies together. And so it's what we call a systematic review and a meta-analysis. And so it's been seeing that as you increase the amount of times that you skip breakfast, there's also an increased likelihood that you'll increase risk of chronic conditions like obesity, diabetes, heart condition, or even have high cholesterol. So it's important to have consistent practice. Just like we want healthy behaviors to be part of the consistency, there are benefits of consistently having breakfast every morning. And so there are days where you might have to miss because of your schedules and whatnot, or things might not work out, and that's okay. But just keep in mind, the more episodes of morning nutrition you have, the better you're off for your overall health. And also keep in mind that just having one breakfast is a good idea. Having multiple breakfasts for a longer period of time is also an excellent idea. And so give your body a chance to be able to have those benefits applied to your overall health and well-being.
Alyssa, as I'm hearing all this really great information, I can't help but think, how do I apply this to my life with my specific circumstances? Healthspan is for all people of all ages, all walks of life, all circumstances. And we like to get specific. How can we take what you're teaching us and apply it to our lives?
Great question you are asking. So we all know that we have to have carbs, proteins, fiber, good fats, right? That is a must. We need to have all of them. But based on our age, gender, we can mix and match and change their ratios a little bit on what our essential needs are first, right? So if I am a kid or a teenager, my need is growth, development, and energy. So I need more calories maybe at that time. Now we become adults. My need there is energy to sustain what I'm doing the whole day, and maybe not that many calories, but energy level for focus, for attention, to deliver what you do, right? So you can mix and match the same combination to get more in energy. And now let me move on to young at heart. My requirement at that time is nutrition, a balanced diet and nutrition than anything else. So supplementation adds to your routine and a balanced breakfast. So maybe you have to pick and choose and you have to have equal amounts of everything. Maybe, I'm just saying. Now let us look into activity levels. People who are very active, what do they need? calories. So they have to pick a diet or a morning routine that is high in calories. People who are sedentary, they don't need more calories. That might be not a good idea. They need more balance in their nutrition. So they are getting the goodness from the nutrition without moving much. Now let's talk men and women. In general, men need more calories and women need more nutrition. Women need help for bones more than men do. I think it gives you an idea how you can mix and match and pick what is best for you, but still at the end of the day, it has to be a combination of all.
I love that you touched on every person throughout the life stages that we all encounter or will encounter through our days. And so starting with the younger and the older, I tend to put them in this similar group. For the younger, you obviously need the calories and the nutrients to grow and to develop. But also, as you're older, your appetite might be decreasing. And so you might not always want that meal, but the nutrients is still important to maintain healthy life and healthy lifestyle. And so for those two particular groups, you really want to treat every mealtime as an opportunity to inject some nutrients in your day, whether it's in macronutrient form for carbohydrates, proteins, and healthy fats, or micronutrients like vitamins and minerals, right? Those are opportunities that we do it, especially for younger kids who might not eat a whole lot. And the same thing for older adults, where you really just want to make sure that the food is nutrient dense, meaning you have a lot of nutrient for a small amount of food. And then you want to make sure that every bite counts. And when you think about healthy adults who are busy on the go, you want to have options that are good for you. And so I think when you look at the science and you look at research, there are some countries where on-the-go breakfast is a thing that they do. It's part of their day. However, when you do that, when you go out to breakfast or when you have something on the go that you grab off the shelf, the nutrient profile is a little different than when you grab the nutrients from your refrigerator or from your own home. And so the comprehensive package of nutrients that you get from just having a piece of fruit or even having a meal replacement, which is different from a protein shake, right? Meal replacement tends to have all the macronutrients and some of the vitamins, minerals that you have through the day. That alone, even if you are not a breakfast eater, will get you started going to the component and have the components that you really truly need. And then for those people who are between sedentary and those who have high active lifestyles, it's important to have crucial amounts of proteins and fats. And I think there's some people that would say, you know what, I'm exercising. Every time I eat, my stomach doesn't feel good. Just like certain habits that take time to develop, eating small amounts throughout before you get to your workout is also important. If you haven't eaten at all and you try to work out, yes, that's not going to be optimal. And so really make sure that you increasingly have more and more food if you choose to work out in the morning. And so I think thinking about those exercise physiology perspective, if you have nothing in your tank is completely empty. You wake up and you're like, I'm going to lift a lot of weights today, or I'm going to have a very moderate to vigorous level of activity, but you have nothing in your tank. Well, guess what? It's going to pull from nutrients from your body. So breaking down your muscles to have the gifted nutrients. So if you want to preserve what you have, it's important to feed your body what it needs so it doesn't take it from the bank. You really want to feed it in terms of what you have from your foods and from your supplementation. And so again, if you are not eating right now, give your body a chance to slowly integrate. A small bite of food is better than no food, but a comprehensive meal is really what you need so that your body does what exactly you can possibly do for the exercise that you want you to engage for that day.
Gigi, wonderful, excellent, such a nice explanation. If you don't give your body what it needs, it will take from your body what it needs. That is a very typical case in bone loss. So your body may need calcium, right? And if you're not supplying it with that calcium supplementation, it will take that from your bones, your own bones. What happens? Now you have weak bones because your bones need calcium too. Self-awareness is also a big thing in picking what we should pick, mix and match in what we eat. We should know, we should be very aware about our health conditions. Routine checks on our health condition gives us that information. And once we know what my health condition is, I hope everybody's condition is optimum, but that is not the world we live in. We all have some things that go on. Knowing that helps us to choose what we should eat carefully. So we should be self-aware of our own bodies too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel very filled up. You see what I did there?
Bravo.
On all this knowledge about morning nutrition. And I'm so excited that we got to speak with both of you today. As we kind of wrap up, we like to hear 2 or 3 things we can do right away that are practical, that are going to help us. What are those things that you would share with us now? Gigi, let's start with you.
So I think an easy one that we've talked about in terms of routine is just starting with a glass of water when you wake up, right? Again, one of the simpler things that I would do is have a bottle of water or a glass of water on your nightstand. The moment you wake up, have a sip. It doesn't have to be a whole glass. That's something that I could do. And if you are eating breakfast, great. If you're not, or you're struggling to have a more balanced diet, include one piece of food that you would think after hearing this episode would be part of that regimen, right? Whether it's a high fiber item like a fruit or vegetable, or having a lean protein from a protein shake or a meal replacement. Those are just one component. Doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to start with one step. And once you get to one step, you're able to take multiple steps after that. And so putting that pressure off of yourself to be perfect is probably one of the best points I can offer in terms of making sure that you're leading a healthy wellness lifestyle.
Let me say that it is never too late to start on the path of a good diet. And a good and balanced diet starts with morning nutrition.
That's fantastic. Thank you both for your time and for sharing your wisdom. We super appreciate having you visit us today.
Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure to be with you.
Thanks for your time.
One last question as we close here. I'm curious, based on all that we've learned today, John will come to you last, okay? Amit and Gigi, can you share with us what you plan to eat for breakfast tomorrow morning?
So one of my favorites is having a high fiber toast with some avocado, since I'm in California. Those are always available. And a egg, usually like from a free range farm. So the yolk is orangey. I like to top it off with sesame seeds. Sesame seeds are really chock full of calcium. And so that's one of my favorites.
I like little convenience. So it's not laziness, but convenience. So I like to have one pot meal kind of a thing. But having said that, I like to mix all these 4 options in my one pot as a smoothie and add omega-3 as a supplement to my diet. And that's what will happen tomorrow too.
All right.
Oh, you first.
I remember I'm the person who loves all of these breakfast things. So I hear Gigi and I say, yes, that sounds delicious. I love the smoothie option too. So just for the sake of time, I'll say either the avocado toast option or the smoothie. Both of those sound delicious. Maybe I'll do one tomorrow and the other one the next day. Okay, John.
All right, I've thought a lot about this, and I know for a fact what I'm going to have tomorrow. It is a leftover quiche that my mom made for me this past Sunday. Sausage, egg, all that stuff.
All right. That's great.
I hope I passed the test. All right. Thank you, everyone at home. We hope you got to learn a thing or two. Make sure you like and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And make sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. We will see you next time.